I'm Bonnie Hunter, and I'm here to share with you today my new book, Addicted to Scraps, and the accompanying Essential Triangle tool from C&T Publishing. In a previous video, we showed you how to make half-square triangles easily with the Essential Triangle tool. The Essential Triangle tool works with many of the patterns in my book, and it can be used for half-square triangles, quarter-square triangles, combination flying geese using half-square triangles and quarter-square triangles together, and other multi-part triangles where you might want a combination of the two. I love having this in my studio to quickly make these units from strips that I already keep on hand. In the quilt that you see behind me, that's Wanderlust. It's one of the patterns in the book. You'll notice that there are flying geese in two sizes, half-square triangles, and other units that come together. And the Essential Triangle tool made this job very easy for me because it works in multiple sizes. On the ruler itself, you'll notice that there are red lines for half-square triangles, and there's green lines for quarter-square triangles. And we're going to start with the quarter-square triangles. When you are cutting quarter-square triangles, if you were working from squares, the regular rotary cutting formula is to add 1.25 inches to the finished size of the unit. If your flying geese unit measures 2 inches by 4 inches finished, that means you have to start with 5.25 inch squares. I don't know about you, but that's not a size that's easily kept on hand. With the Essential Triangle tool, I can get the same unit from 2.5 inch strips for both the wing triangles and the center large background triangle. In order to use this ruler, you need to know the finished size of the unit. So let's say we're working with that 2 inch by 4 inch finished unit. You're going to add 1/2 inch to the height of the flying geese unit. So if our goose finishes at 2 inches tall, you're going to cut this from a 2.5 inch strip. There's full instructions in the package, and it also has a chart of sizes easily, readily available for you. What we want to do for these hourglass units is put the ruler down on the right hand of the fabric, and I'm actually going to show you a regular hourglass unit with two fabrics right sides together. I've got a purple and a neutral. I'm going to put the 2.5 inch line on the bottom of the strip set, and I'm going to make my first cut. We're cutting these into already matched pairs that will be ready to sew. We're going to cut one side, and at this point I'm actually going to turn the fabric because I don't like to cross body cut. I'm going to slide that 2.5 inch line back to the top of the strip set now, and if you look closely, you'll see there's a little green triangle at the top of the ruler that's above the strip right here. That's to give us a little bit of space. It removes some of the dog ear and the bulk in the middle of the unit, and it also gives us a little runway to seat the blade against when we start to cut. With each cut that I make, I am getting 1/2 hourglass unit or some background triangles for the flying geese. Here's the 2.5 inch line again at the bottom of the strip set, and you can see here the little green triangle at the top. When these pairs are cut, you'll notice that there's a little blunt spot at the top. That will be in the center of your hourglass unit, and having this trimmed allows us to work from 2.5 inch strips and gets rid of some of the bulk in the middle. If I were making a regular hourglass unit, I would send these through the sewing machine both in the same direction and sew my 1/4 inch seam. There'll be some dog ears to remove, and you'll press these to the dark side. My pattern, called Jingle Bell Square in the book, uses these hourglass units, so they'll be easily cut with the Essential Triangle tool from 2.5 and 1.5 inch strips in the book. If I sew these and press these towards the dark, and I bring one set around to be the top, these seams will already be opposing each other, and you'll be able to sew that center seam right across, and you'll have your 4.5 inch unit that'll finish at 4 inches in the quilt if this was the unit we were making. If you want to combine quarter-square triangles and half-square triangles for flying geese units, you can get both of those shapes easily from the same width of strip with the Essential Triangle tool. You will cut the large triangle for flying geese the same way we just cut our hourglass unit triangles here, and we can use this neutral triangle for the base of our flying geese. You're also going to need to cut some half-square triangles, so we're going to take an orange strip right here, And we're going to put this strip right sides together. To cut half square triangles, you're going to use the red lines on the ruler. And we're working with the finished size of the unit. That's the height of the flying geese. So you'll use the 2-inch line for this unit. That 2-inch line is going to go right at the top of the strip set. And you're going to trim off any uneven ends here, any selvage to get a good square corner. And then you're going to turn that strip set around. Now, if you were a left-handed quilter, what you would be doing is trimming up on your left and moving your strip set around to your right. So you'll be cutting exactly the same way as the right-handed people, only in mirror image. Here's our 2-inch line again, and we're going to place that at the top of the strip set. You'll notice that the little green triangle is hanging off the bottom edge. What we've done is removed the dog ear from this half square triangle so that we can get it from a 2.5-inch strip instead of a 2 7/8 inch square. I'm going to make one cut here. That's one pair of wing triangles to complete one flying geese unit. And we're going to pivot the ruler, bringing that green triangle up to the top and sliding that 2-inch line down to the bottom of the fabric. And you'll see that the diagonal of the ruler is even with the edge of the fabric. And we're going to make a cut. In this method, you would cut as many pairs as you needed for the flying geese required for your pattern. When you take these pairs apart, because they were cut right sides together, you would notice that they are in mirror image of each other, and each has a blunt corner trimmed off on opposite ends. So on this one and this one, we can see if we add this triangle here, that these notched corners will match with each other when you go to sew your flying geese unit. I like to start with the right hand one, and I will bring the right hand triangle right sides together with the base triangle. And you'll notice that these edges are even right at the top. This is where you are going to sew your 1/4-inch seam from top to bottom. And then this is really important. I like to give hints and tricks and helps where I can. We need to be really careful with pressing here. We've got unprotected bias on this other side where we haven't sewn yet. So for this triangle alone on the right side, when I press, I fold this out and give it just a gentle finger press, and that's all. I don't put any heat, any pressure on this seam at all, just a finger press. At that point, I will bring this triangle over, and I will start sewing from the bottom corner on down, and this one's already sewn on. And then at that point, once that bias seam has been sewn, you can use the iron to gently press this unit. When you are done, you'll have a flying geese unit that looks just like this. It will measure 2.5 inches tall, 4.5 inches wide, and it's ready to sew into your quilt. Now you can use this Essential Triangle tool to make flying geese in many sizes, from 1 inch tall to 6 inches tall. I hope that you take the opportunity to try this method with the patterns in the book, and I look forward to seeing your beautiful quilts.